Mhm.
All right, we're on.
Good to
Hello,
go.
welcome to a very special episode. We have with us, and I'm going to say your name wrong. I'm so sorry.
Give it a go.
Madeline Te Whiu.
Yeah, that was pretty
That's
good.
pretty good.
Actually, yeah, good job.
Thank
All
you.
right, we're off to a good start.
All right, and I think we'll end it there because we're not going to get any better than
Yeah,
that.
and we're done.
We're done. Thank you. Well, Madeline, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to
Mm.
come on and talk to our very small show.
Welcome.
Because I know you are neck deep in editing book 3. In your,
Yes.
I think the whole trilogy is called the Soul Thief trilogy. Was that right?
Yeah, yeah, that's the one.
Awesome. Awesome. So you had the Assassin Thief and the Soul Thief, which just came out end of last year.
Yes, Halloween, 31st of October.
Oh, did you plan that or was it just happenstance?
Not intentionally, no, not that exact day.
Awesome. So how has it felt like getting to the third? Well, how has it felt first of all, like actually being a published author, like with 2 books and a third one on the way?
It's wild. It really is. A word I feel like I chronically overuse is bizarre because it is so bizarre.
Hmm.
This is not my full-time job. I work as a vet nurse, which also takes up a lot of my time. So a lot of the times it feels really surreal because when I'm doing book things, events and signings, they usually sort of clump together. So Supernovas and Oz Comic Cons, they're sort of all together. So I'll have like a week or 2 weeks of just doing book stuff and traveling and going into
Mm.
bookstores.
Mm.
And then I sort of come home and go back to normal life. So it doesn't seem real. Like I'm
Yeah.
just at home, sitting at my computer, editing, going off to work. And it's just really weird. But I don't think I'll ever get over the feeling of walking into a bookstore and seeing the book on the shelf to be able to sign it is such a bizarre feeling.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how was that feeling like the first time you walked into a bookstore, like just on your own and saw your book sitting there? Like, was it dream come true?
It was wild. It's such a surreal feeling. Like it was like a big melting pot of feelings. Like I was so nervous and stressed because when it's on the shelf, that's it. There's like no take backsies. It's out in the world now, whether I like it or not. I can't edit it anymore. I can't fix it. It's just it's out. It's in print. It's gone. So yeah, really nervous and stressed. Obviously, very proud and happy to have got here. The bookstore I saw it at was actually my local bookstore that I used to go to all the time. And my mum came with me, and we're searching for it, in all these hundreds of titles. And because you're nervous and stressed, we must have like skipped straight past it so many times. So it was really wild to see it there. My mum instantly like pulled it off the shelf. I have a video of it, and she's sort of like showing it off to absolutely nobody. So it was really cool, and it's always so exciting still, a couple of years later, to be able to take them up to the front desk and be like, hey, can I sign these for you? Like, I don't have to. Do you want me to? And
And
people
there's
always get so
who are
excited.
you?
Yeah, people, it's sort of like an inside joke because
Hmm.
you'll hand people the books and I'll say, do you want me to sign these for you? And they go, oh, are you the author? And I always think it would be kind of weird if I wasn't.
No,
But of
no,
course
no.
it's
I
going to
just
be
like
your
signing
reaction.
things.
Um, but yeah, it was just amazing. And I still we've just recently gotten the books into Big W.
Yeah, I
And
saw them there the other day.
yeah, and into Kmart book 1. And we're sort of doing negotiations for book 2. So that's super weird as well because
Yeah,
Kmart is like, it's like Kmart. It's such a big
yeah.
brand. Um, yeah, and never did I think that I would end up on any bookshelf, let
Hmm.
alone Dimmicks and QBD and all those sort of big stores. So it's just been crazy.
It sounds like it's kind of like been this whirlwind thing because I first met you at the Gold Coast Supernova last year.
Yeah.
I have no idea if you actually remember me there or not. you probably saw so many people, and same with
Last
the
year is in 2023 or 2022.
2023.
Yeah, I think so. Because that
It was
would
like
have been
if
in
you
the indie alley still.
yes, because you went from the indie alley, and then I saw you again at the Brisbane Super, and you were actually in the QBD literary superstar section,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're like, wow, going up in
I
the
don't know
world.
why. I think I remember you from the I didn't you come up and chat to me at the Brizzy one as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely did.
I
I
think I recall you from there.
yeah, I think I was one of the first ones you got for the day because I think someone asked you to sign, and then you would just happen to be sitting there.
Yes. Yes. Because I wasn't meant to be there. I was dorky newbie was meant to be up in the green room with all the other authors.
Um,
So when they
if
all
you
came down, the literary agent was like, bro, why are you here? You're not meant to have been here yet.
you were just so keen to meet your fans.
I'm just so used to being so self-sufficient from being in the indie alley, you know?
Yeah.
You have to be there early to set up and make sure you're all ready and have everything
Mm.
because no one's going to help you, like, except for the people that come. I mean, the community is very good, of course, but,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it was a very new learning
Yeah.
experience to have things done for me. And I'm such a I can do it myself girly. So
Because if you need a memory jog, the thing that stands out when I first met you at the Gold Coast, your husband, I think, was with you.
yeah.
And I came up with my son, and he started showing off his Pokemon cards to my
Yeah.
son. And I think you were telling him to stop with like all this secondhand embarrassment.
Because since he started coming to Supernova with me, um he has found a new love of Pokemon card collecting, which is fantastic. um and yeah, he was just stoked. So he's always sneaking off and buying Pokemon cards now, and he'll open them and he'll sit there and like Google their like how much they cost, because you know some are worth ridiculous amounts
Yep.
apparently.
Yep.
um for collectors, you know. So that's his new favorite thing. And if he gets double ups, or like I don't know, we call them low value cards,
Yeah.
he'll just hand them out to kids. He's very good, bless him.
Oh, that's great. He sounds like he's been very supportive.
He has, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely don't think I would have got here without him, as cliche as that sounds. um but yeah, he's definitely a huge support
But
and my rock.
clearly he's not coming to help you anymore. He's just there to collect Pokemon cards. And you're just
Yeah.
the excuse to travel to get them.
Literally, I'm just the hope that I can claim some of the taxes on some of the flights on tax.
Because I think I was reading, so I did a bit of internet stalking before this, and I think I was reading that he was really the catalyst that started you writing.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like most readers, you know, that are big readers always feel like I'm gonna write a book one day, or I could do that. You know, you always have
Mm.
your own character or storyline or scene. There's always something in your head that you want to try to get down on paper. And for me, it was Tellium, like this character that I wanted to be very, very vicious and a bit caustic and sassy and you know, bit of a B word. I don't know what
You
you
can
have to
you
edit out.
you can swear, it's fine.
um and I think I had just talked about it so much that one day he just bought me a laptop and brought it home and
Mm.
was like, just do it, go
Mm.
write the book. And yeah, that definitely sort of started it from there.
Was he kind of like on your back about it since then? Like, why aren't you writing? I bought you this. You should be
No,
writing.
no, never. I
Oh,
think he was
good.
just sort of trying to call my bluff, really. um to be honest. And as I was sort of writing, I would send him updates like, look, I have 4,000 words written, and then I had 10,000, which sort of looking back, I'm like, oh, cute. 10,000 words.
And
um
now hundreds of thousands of words in.
yeah, it's nearly, yeah, I think I'm gonna hit 200,000 in this draft before I have to shave some of it back for
Oh,
sure. I know.
are you much of a, I guess with your like what's your kind of writing process like? Are you much more of a pantser or a planner? Or what
I am a huge pantser. Yeah.
me too. That's how I do it.
Yeah, definitely. So I was 110% a pantser when I started writing The Assassin Thief. So I actually wrote the final scenes, like the big finale battle scene first. It was the
Yeah.
first scene I ever wrote.
Hmm.
And then I was like, cool, because this was the idea that I had in my head, this big what if and betrayal and all these people suddenly not being the people you thought they were. That was the sort of inciting incident for me wanting to write. So I wrote that and then went, okay, now we have to get here, you know? So I sat down and started writing. I think I got about maybe halfway through the story and just hit a huge writer's block. And it was like, I actually don't know where I'm going with this story. And this is why I'm getting stuck. So I was like, I'm gonna be a planner. But I'm sure my version of planning stresses actual planners out. After seeing the process, on social media of people that are true planners,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm still not a planner. Nope. I think I had for book 2, 1 and 2, I had like 2 pages of dot points, of like plot points, very vague plot point. And I think book 3 is like 3 pages of just bullet points, I was like, yeah, look at me planning all over the place. And still I'm like, no, that's not it. But that sort of helped me then write from there. And it was good for when I was pitching the book because I was pitching book 1 in a trilogy, at least I had it, even though it was very vague, I had that to be like, this is where it's going.
Yeah.
Like they sort of understood what direction it was going in. So but still definitely a pantser for the most part.
Yeah.
Like the dot points are like super vague. There's tons of stuff that happens in between.
Yeah, they're a suggestion, not
Yeah,
a yeah.
rough outline.
So was it always like did your ideas start as one book, then just kind of blow out to a trilogy, or was it always planned for 3 books?
No, I think just when I spent those, I don't know, I think it was maybe a week or 2 of sitting down and being like, okay, what is the story here? And I think that's when I went, well, I need more space to do it, because like some of the bigger plot points that ended up being in book 2 or 3, I was like, this is why they're not working, because they don't fit. There's nowhere to put them and there's no lead up to it. Which I think we find sometimes, when books become too unbelievable or sort of pull you out of the story, is because the plot twist is too twisty.
Yeah.
And there was no lead up to it. Yeah, so it was just from that sort of dot point. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm writing 3. So
Cool.
So
Go
when
me.
you were looking around for or shopping for a publisher, as it might have been, or however the process works, were you selling yourself as this is a book 1 of a trilogy, or
yeah,
and was that a bit daunting if you were doing that? Like
definitely. And I completely understood from a publisher's point of view the risk, for lack of a better word, because you're not just picking up one book, are you? You're it's under the assumption that it's going to be the trilogy, and it might not always. Like, I'm sure if the book completely bottomed out and flopped really badly, no one would expect them to pick up the rest of the books. But yeah, it was I was always very aware that some people just like, it's too much of a risk for a new author that no one's heard of. You've not had any prior works. So it was very tricky. And that's why I always kept being like, I have notes for the next one if you need it.
I'm totally a planner. Yeah, here it all is.
Yeah.
Here's
Here it is,
here's
5
3
pages.
dot points.
Yeah.
I guess
It's kind of what happens.
because I think you were the first author New Dawn picked up, if that's correct.
Yes,
So,
I was.
like, that's a big risk for them as well, to pick up a new author for their first book,
for their new brand. Yeah.
publishing a trilogy.
I know. It's
Like,
it's just crazy.
the pressure was on for you.
The pressure was wild. But it was sort of really beautiful as well, because we, Dylan is the director of New Dawn. He has been in the publishing industry because his mum runs a publishing house as well.
Okay.
She does children's books, as far as I'm aware, and sort of fiction and those sort of self-help books along that line. So he understood the industry, but still to stand alone and do it by yourself and run everything by yourself is a completely different kettle of fish. But it was just really cool because it was all of us learning along the way together. Do you know what I mean? And even though I have no experience with bigger publishing houses, it's all very close knit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sort of, it kind of feels like a publishing family, because we all know each other. And everyone just wants everyone to succeed. Do you know what I mean? Because the better I do, the better New Dawn do, and the better New Dawn do, the better I do, and then other authors, and it's just this big, combined reaction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot more personal. Like, I had tons of say in what the cover looked like,
Yeah.
what the map looked like, whereas I'm unsure if you would get that in a bigger publishing house, because they would be like, I know what sells, so this is what you get, kind of thing. So yeah, that was really awesome, and it was probably a good like ease into the publishing industry, because they're very gentle and very understanding, giving feedback and everything. So I think I got quite lucky and landed on my feet.
That's great.
I was just going to ask, because I have heard horror stories from authors that the book that the publishers wound up releasing was not really the book they wanted to write. So you felt like you had a bit more freedom, or a bit more input or control as to what actually was published in the end.
100%. And even now, so Ellie came on as we were sort of at the tail end of doing the final edits for book 1. So she was sort of just doing like beta reading. But then book 2, and 3, she's been very heavily involved in the edits. And she's always explicitly makes the point of, this is your story and your decisions are final. And the suggestions I make are just that, they're suggestions. So she's really good like that. Even Dylan, when he was editing, book 1, there would be things, he'd be like, this scene or this character perhaps makes no sense, or I don't feel like they're justified in being in the story. But in the same way, they were very open to me coming back and being like, in this, yes, but I need it for book 2 or book 3, or here's the reasoning behind that. So there was like lots of back and forth, because basically their mantra is, if I could justify keeping it, it can stay. Which is a really good exercise, I think, as an author, because if you can't justify keeping it, why is it there? Like, do you just love it because you love the scene, it gives you warm fuzzies? But if it's not advancing the plot, then, and you can't justify it, then it probably needs to go.
Did you have any scenes like that where you really hated cutting, but it worked out better?
Yes, absolutely. There are scenes, and it's not that I regret cutting them now that I have seen the end piece, but at the time, when you're in that moment, you're like, no, I want to keep it, because there's no reason to keep it. I just like it. I like the way I wrote it, or I like this character, or this action that happens. But yeah, if I can't say this then has this effect later on, or the reader learns this, or anything like that, there's no point in it being there. And it slows the pacing down. So definitely, but my little secret, which has really helped me, and my advice to any other authors now when they ask about it, is to have a cutscene folder. So you're not it's not gone. You haven't deleted it. You've just moved it to the side, and you tell yourself, I'm going to save that for when I do like a special edition or something. Either my special edition chapter.
The 10th anniversary edition.
Yes, exactly. So it might be useless advice for anyone else, but it just helped me in my brain, because it wasn't hit the delete button, lost, So yeah, there were definitely some scenes that I was like, oh, I want to keep this, and I have no reason for wanting to keep it other than I like it.
You wrote it, it's your words.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. But on the flip side of that, deleting scenes that I didn't need then left me room to add in new scenes. So in book 1, for example, there's a scene near the end where Tellium and another character, Paxium, have this sort of mini confrontation in a china shop, sort of. And it's just it's not a big epic scene, but it's a very high tension scene, I think. And it's sort of that calm before the storm because you know something's coming. That I literally added in the last round of structural edits before we went to copy edits. So it's scraped in by the skin of its teeth. And it came from the suggestion that we needed to see more of these characters interacting. And I love it. It's probably one of my favorite scenes in the book now. So it's kind of a good trade-off, you know?
And especially, not to get too much spoilers, but how their relationship goes into book 2 kind of helps to add that depth to their relationship.
Yeah, which was where the suggestion had come from. And yeah, I love it.
Great.
It's one of my favorite scenes.
So when it comes to like creating your world and your characters and things like that, was there a process like you said you kind of sounds like you had the idea of your main character Tellium first, and did you kind of build the story around her, or was it you had the story and put her in it and then built the world around it? What was your process for creating that?
I had the character originally, and if I'm completely honest with myself, she was a very flat character when she was in my head. I was like, I just want to write a badass female assassin. That was it.
Nice.
Was very
cool.
very cliche, very boring, very two-dimensional. And you know, I started adding little things like, oh, she's going to be a bit of a smart ass as well, because she can talk, you know, she can walk the walk and talk the talk. You know, and I was like, oh, and I wanted to have a cool weapon. So then I started researching. That's how we came up with the found the Paladin that she has. And then I sort of built a bit from there. And then after that, sort of inserting her into the world, for lack of a better word, came from then that final plot point in book 1, whereas it sort of just blew up from there. And I had someone quite close to me go through a unfortunate time where themselves and people close around them had that moment where one day the person that they had known their whole lives, they suddenly didn't know. You know, this person had done something horrible. And as I sort of knew this person through this person, I didn't know them the way they did. So it was very interesting in a horrible, sad, morbid kind of way to watch all these people then have to navigate that situation. Do you know what I mean? And whether some people were angry or sad or in denial, because it then prompted that, what must that be like to wake up one day and the person you thought you knew your whole life, you don't know. They are not the person that you thought they were. And I sort of just took that little what if and put it into fantasy, which means you can make it way bigger and way more dramatic and more awful.
So I will say the ending of book 1 is quite awful.
It's awful.
It's horrible, and how dare you end it that way?
I know. I know. But yeah, that's so then she sort of got inserted into that situation, because I was like, okay, well, what happens if that happens to a person like Telly, who is this rough, vicious, trained killer? And how does she react to that? And how do the people around her react to that? And then what is the fallout afterwards? Do you know? Because it's these situations, even in life, they don't happen in a vacuum. Do you know what I mean? Like there's this big awful event, but that event still happened a week later and a year later and 10 years later, and people still have to deal with the repercussions of that event. So yeah, it just all sort of, that was way too deep. That's where
that's good.
That's where it all sort of stemmed from watching you know, my loved ones go through that sort of situation, which was awful. And yeah, just wild and interesting in a horrible way.
Was it almost like therapeutic to work through it, through this fantasy character?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, perhaps not for that particular situation.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like I was a bystander, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was a bystander to that situation. But definitely, writing has been very cathartic for me. Working in a really high stress job, a really emotional job, especially since when I was getting to the tail end of it, it was during COVID, which just made everyone's life 10 times harder.
Yep.
You know, but especially in the vet industry, because we were running on skeleton staff and people were home with their pets all the time. So they started realizing, oh, your teeth stink, or you have a lump, you're limping. People got COVID puppies, and it became this novel outing to go to the vets because vets were an essential service. So it was, you know, as for everyone, just trying to juggle that new reality. So writing was, hugely good for an outlet for me, because it became escapism in the same way that reading became escapism. But I got to tell the story. I got to decide who died and who got punched in the face.
Yeah. Unlike in real life, you can't walk around punching people in the face.
Yes.
But in your world, she can do that as much as she wants.
Absolutely can. In my world, yeah, for sure. So definitely rings true when they say, you know, writers will totally put you in your story just to kill you off. I'm like, 100%, that's so true.
So definitely. Do you find there's a lot of self-insertion? I'm an English teacher, by the way. That's my job. So we assume that every novel ever written is autobiographical in some way.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe that as the author, you're wrong and we're right. Of course. But do you find that after you'd written it, like, there is quite a bit of self-insertion from myself into this character or into this world?
Yeah. Definitely. And not even just the main character, sometimes just the side characters. And how do I explain this? It's self-insertion a little bit, as in who I think I am, and sometimes who I wish I was or could be. And a lot of it is everyone around me as well. Do you know what I mean? I've had lots of questions about how do I create certain characters, and I just say they are Frankensteins of everyone I've ever come across. Lottie is a perfect example. She's one of my side characters. She's the sunshine character. She became quite a lovable character, and I've had lots of people ask about her. And she was just all my favorite traits about my favorite people. You know, I would pick one's friend's loyalty, and how one friend always just seems to be sunshine personified, you know, and how one was funny, and how one would, you know, stand up for you in a way that be like, oh, like, shush, don't worry about that, like, leave her be. So these characters sort of become Frankensteins of the personality I want them to be. So if I wanted a very loyal character or a very vicious character, I would be like, okay, well, these are the traits from these people, and it's going to make a whole new person, sort of thing. Definitely. While I was away, I heard a wonderful quote from one of the other authors on a panel that said, we're never not writers. And what he meant by that was that you can be sitting on a train or out for dinner or watching TV, and once you start, you can't stop. There's always something that you take away from that, even if it's subconsciously and file away in the back of your brain, just in case for later.
Is that you ever in the middle of something in your job and just like, oh, I need to write that down quick?
I always have voice notes on my phone. But it's easier for me to quickly get into like a voice to text, which is always funny to read back, because voice to text doesn't like made up fantasy words. So lots of times I get television goes. I'm like, oh, Tellium. But yeah, there's lots of little names as well.
Yep.
Supernova has been especially such a blessing because sometimes you get stuck on names, and some people have cool names, man. Like,
Yeah, look, use my name. Feel free.
full permission.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've never met another Brayton.
Mm.
I've met a lot of Braydons, but never
Yeah.
one that's the same as me.
Brayton is definitely, a nice, unique one.
Speaking of your work, sorry, you said you're a vet nurse, and it doesn't seem like the usual occupations that you're more creative or artistic people are drawn to. And how have they been? Like, you say you have to go off and do supernovas and comic cons and things like that. And like from my early years working in theater and doing stage management and directing and stuff like that, working in hospitality where you can leave a job one day, work for 3 or 4 weeks, and then the next day you pick up another job straight away.
Yeah.
How's your work? How do they first, like, I guess, what was their first reaction to that? And like, you want to go where for what?
Yeah.
How they sort of been?
Well, so in 2022 it would have been when I got picked up for the Assassin Thief. Basically as soon as I got picked up and they said this is our projected sort of publishing date, I went to management and I was like, full disclosure, don't ask me for shit at the end of the year because I'm not going to be here. Like, so they had like lots of prior warning. Again, during COVID, so I'm not gonna lie, I definitely flexed my, what are you gonna do, fire me? Like, you need me.
Yep.
So I'm taking this week off, whether you like it or not. Not gonna lie, I definitely flex those privileges a little bit, especially as a senior nurse. And then as of last year, I actually stopped. I used to work in an emergency clinic, which is crazy busy. And I worked part-time in an emergency clinic and part-time with a mobile vet. And the mobile clinic I've known and worked with a vet since I started nursing nearly 9 years ago now. So as of 2023, I actually just worked with them full-time with the mobile clinic because they're sort of a bit more friends and they want to see me win. So they're like, go. Like, if you need to go for 4 weeks to New Zealand, go, because we want to see you win. We know this is your dream. But also because they're a smaller team, you would think it would be harder, but it's kind of easier because if I'm not there, there's only one vet to sort out, as opposed to when I was at the emergency clinic, if I'm not there, but every head is accounted for. When the clinics are so big, you need every single person. So if you're short someone's either working overtime to cover your shift or you're pulling someone from a different department. Whereas this one's a bit smaller. So they're like, oh, cool, you're not going to be here for 2 weeks. This vet will just do runs on their own and we'll just make sure we don't, book them any aggressive animals or anything like that, that need wrestling. So yeah, it's when I first did the Assassin Thief, it was a bit tricky, a bit of juggling about not stepping on toes of work, but also being like, well, these are the sacrifices I'm going to make because this is what I want to do. Which is definitely a bit of an odd turn from vet nursing to authoring.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's great you have that flexibility though, because that's not something everyone has.
I have worked many very strange jobs and have lots of obscure hobbies. I'm such a contradiction to myself, for sure. I'm like a real fantasy book nerd and also grew up like out in the bush fixing fences and herding sheep, and I can be real rough and tumble and get my hands dirty when I need to. So always a bit odd when you're in the different communities, sometimes they cross over and you forget. I'll be like with country people and I'm like, have you read this book? It's really good. No.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, no. Or, you know, if I'm doing author stuff and I'm like, do you need me to help you fix your tire? I don't know, just something. And like, what do you mean you can fix the tire? I'm like, what do you mean you can't? Like, what if you're stuck in the bush? So yeah, really odd. But up until now, lots of my stuff have been very country based. Like I worked lots of harvest seasons for grain silos and on cattle stations. I worked in hospitality for a bit, and that's sort of when I was like, no, let me get an actual career. Which ended up being vet nursing. Which don't recommend, FYI.
All right, I'll cross that off my list.
Don't let any of your kids be vet nurses or vets for that matter.
I'll have to tell my daughter. She's insistent on working with animals.
No, tell her to do look, it's a very fulfilling job, but if I'm completely honest, the industry is munted at the moment. And it is especially with the cost of living going up, it's just making everything harder. But like, little known thing is the pay sucks for what we do. It sucks, you know. I'm in my 9th year of vet nursing. I'm a senior vet nurse. I've trained dozens of students and vets as well. And I can do emergency, I can do orthopedics, I can do, you know, quite a broad range of things. And my pay is $30 an hour. And that's the max.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the top end of a vet nurse wage.
Yeah.
New grad vets get like 50 to 60 grand a year after studying for 6 years. Yes, wow.
Yeah.
My favorite fun fact of the industry.
Also, side note, love that you use the word munted. Absolutely one of my favorite words. And for our international viewers who won't know what that means, something munted means it's fucked up.
It's broken. Yeah.
Brilliant Aussie word right there.
Yeah.
Love it.
Definitely.
No, that's so interesting. Like, do you consider yourself, now that you're a published author, do you consider yourself an author that does vet nursing on the side?
Depends when you ask me. You know, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm a vet nurse and an author. And I think I say it that way, to be honest, which I need to get myself out of the habit of, is because I feel like if I introduce myself as an author, I'm like putting tabs on myself. Like, I feel like I'm giving myself airs and graces, because it's kind of not an odd job, but it's not a super common job.
Yeah.
I suppose. So I get quite flustered, you know? So I'll say I'm an author and also I wrote a book. You know, which I definitely need to get out of the habit of.
Yeah.
Because it's not to say that I'm not proud of my achievements. I just get really flustered when I have to.
So you don't like talking about your own work?
No, not really. I'm getting better at it. But I do still get quite flustered. Like, when someone's like, "What's your book about?" I'm like, read the blurb. Took me weeks.
Does it sort of come down to your frame of mind when you're drafting as well? When people ask you, like, I know when I'm drafting something, I sort of switch between this is the greatest work that anyone has ever seen and this is the worst thing anyone has ever written and should be scrapped. So if I'm in that phase and someone says, "What do you do?" I'm like, I am a teacher. I don't write at all.
Yeah.
If you're in the other phase, like, oh yeah, I've been writing for years. I'm the best author you'll ever read. And I vet nurse. You know.
Who? No. Yeah, a little bit, I think. And I think it depends a lot on the people I'm talking to. Like, I try to sort of get a bit of a gauge on them. Like, if you're a book person, probably either more likely to tell you if I think you're a fantasy book person, or if you're like a like classic book girly, only read Hamlet and whatever, I'm probably way less likely to tell you. Don't know. But if you've never picked up a book in your life, I'm like, I'm gonna tell you, because you're never gonna read it. So how will you know if it's shit? Yeah, I have lots of people tell people for me. So, you know, if I'm ever meeting someone, like, I don't know, hubby's work friends, I'm like, oh, I'm a vet nurse, and they're like, and he'll be like, and she's an author, you know, like, my vets do it as well because we do home visits. We're obviously in people's houses, so, and me book nerd. If the
Yeah.
vet's chatting and someone's got a bookshelf, I'm always like having a little look see at what they've got. Read that one sucked. Like, and if they ever notice me looking or something, the vets will be like, "Oh, you read," and I'm like, "Oh God, here we go." They're like, "Oh, Maddie's an author too."
You haven't
Notice my
found
book's not on your shelf there.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say you haven't found your book on someone else's bookshelf yet.
Wouldn't that be bizarre?
Oh.
No. But we've worked out a little kind of a system. Like with me and the vets, we've worked out a look because they're not readers. So I will look at their bookshelf and they kind of look at me like, should I say something? And if there's no fantasy books on the shelf, I'm like, don't bother, because you either love or hate fantasy, I think.
Yeah.
So they'll sort of, be like, oh, but or I'm like, oh, I have that book. I like that series. Like,
you don't just carry around a bag of your books to every visit just in case. And so, well, if you like Sarah J. Maas, then check this one out.
all the guys do have bookmarks stashed in their cars. Bless them. So they can like I have one of our books, even if I'm not there. So they can be like, oh, one of our nurses is an author. Here, let me go get you her bookmark.
Oh, that's amazing though.
Yeah, it is really cool. I think the day, if I ever walk into a house and see my book, I will just cease to exist. I'll be like, no, wrong house, we're leaving.
I
Absolutely.
think it'd be even worse if you're like, oh, you've got this book. Yeah, it was pretty crap. I didn't like it. Right?
Yeah, I DNF'd it. Like, oh. Okay. Yeah, for sure. That's why I kind of have a quick squeeze, because I'm like, we're not having this conversation if I see my book on your shelf. You ask me, I've never read a book a day in my life. Like,
yeah.
So on that, actually, a question for you. So your first time published with these novels, were they the first ones you actually wrote? Like, was this the first book? Well, sorry, The Assassin's
Thief, yeah.
Yep. Sorry, I haven't read them again. Full disclosure.
That's right.
Was that like literally the first thing you've written and like, now I'm going to try and get this published, or was it just the first one you had the guts to shop around?
First thing I
Wow.
sat down and actually
That's
wrote
incredible.
from start to finish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, there's bits of scrap paper all through the universe with like a scene written on it that I've lost,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is the first draft, whip, whatever you'd like to call it, from start to finish. So,
well, and were you going to, like, if New Dawn didn't pick up the book, would you have thought about going that self-publishing route, or would you have just been like, obviously this wasn't meant to be?
I was kind of 50-50 on the idea. Hubby was like 110% it was going to be in print come hell or high water. So yeah, definitely think that I probably would have been encouraged to go down the self-publishing route. To be completely honest, knowing what I know now, I have nothing but respect for self-published authors, because it has taken a team of people to get my book to the standard that it's at. So the fact that self-pub authors do it on their own just blows me away. And I have nothing but respect for them, because like, especially when it's your first book, like mine was, I wouldn't have even known where to start. Like, it just honestly boggles my mind that people do it, and they do it again and again and again. And self-pub books, I just think it's amazing. And I know they still have editors to help them, but it's, you're still doing covers and print runs and typesetting and everything on your own, more or less. And it's just crazy. Like, I think if I'm 100% honest with myself, I would have crashed and burned so hard. The book would have completely flopped, because it did need tons and tons and tons of heavy edits when I got picked up by New Dawn. So the short answer is yes, I would have done self-pub. Would have it been successful? Probably not at all. I don't think, but yeah, I just think it's amazing. I have lots of self-pub author friends now, and I just think they're mental in the best way.
They are great. I love going through the alleys at Supernova and Comic-Con and picking up all the self-published authors.
Yeah, I've got tons in my I have a shelf up here. It's like my signed shelf.
Yep.
And I just get so excited when I walk down the indie alley. When I was away last time, I had to post 2 boxes of books back because I couldn't get them in my bag and it was making my weight too heavy. So
Do you ever get weird looks from the other authors when you ask to get a book signed? Like, you're here to sign your own books, man. Like, what's going on?
well, in the indie
Please.
alley, no. Like in the artist alley, no. Like sometimes we would even trade books. If I was interested in a book and they were interested in mine, sometimes you would just do a switch. But no, I think where you can afford it, people in the artist alley are just the most amazing like mini community and group of people. Like you just want to see each other win. So if you have the money, you're gonna buy the book. You know what I mean? I have like from when I went to Brisnova, I have like 4 books on my shelf. I didn't even read the blurb. I was like, is this fantasy? They're like, yeah. I was like, cool, sign it. Take my money. Do you know what I mean? Because you know when you're in the artist alley, like the cost of getting there, the stress of being there, the feeling of like, oh my God, I'm not going to sell any books at all. It's going to be like mortifying. And that is not even including everything else leading up to that point to get the book to where it is. So I felt I was a bit weird last one because I didn't want to feel like I was imposing on people because I was up in the other booth. But I had a couple of girls that I had met the years prior that were originally my readers, that are now published authors themselves. So I really wanted to go see them. I'd pre-ordered their books and everything. And I was sort of like, I don't want to feel like I'm stepping on toe. It was a bit of an odd dynamic, but they were like, no, come take photos, do TikToks with us. So that was really cool. It was, it's just a really awesome little community, but I have, it's not good for my wallet for sure.
No, the last Supernova, the Brisbane one, my wife was, I had the paper bags from the QED thing and they both broke with how heavy they were.
He sent us all photos going, look what I bought. Like, when are you going to read those?
Yeah, I will get to them.
Yes. The good thing about Supernova is usually the prices are a bit better as well. They'll do like bundle deals and stuff, or if you buy it, you get merch. But also signed copy. You can justify any price when it's a signed copy.
That's it. I go for the signing. It's like, I don't care what this book is about. If it's getting signed, I'm getting it.
Signed. Yes. Yeah. So, oh God, I've got oodles of books.
I literally just talked about one of the self-published ones on the last episode.
Yeah.
It was the Flamegate books. They were at Brisbane Supernova last time, and really good. Like hidden gem, I called it.
I love those.
Yeah,
that's right. He's putting out another author during your interview at the moment.
Oh, fine. No, because I'm looking it up now because I want to know.
Yeah, they were very good. Local Brisbane author too.
And that's the best part. You start finding all these local authors.
Yeah, and it was the thing that after the episode I actually sent her an email just going like, hey, just letting you know, I talked about your book on the podcast. And she's like, oh my God, really?
Yeah.
And then she promoted us on Instagram and our numbers actually went up. So it's like, yes.
Yeah. It's all a big like symbiotic relationship.
It is.
For sure.
So the English teacher nerd in me has to ask, because Brayton was talking to me about the book the other day, and he said that you write, I want to get this right, in like a first person present tense style.
Third person present tense.
Third person present tense. Third person. So a lot of students I'll be like, oh, what's the best tense to write in? So what's the best person? Should we first, second, third, or what have you? And I'm always telling them, you got to write with what you're comfortable with. And so being your first actual novel, did you sit down and think about, I think writing in present tense is a bit different. Maybe that'll make it stand out a bit more. Is it just that's where you feel comfortable, that sort of style? Or?
The third person, definitely. That's just how it came out. I actually still to this day, this is what I'm correcting in my current draft, I tense hop atrociously. So bad. I was mortified that I had sent this draft to my editor because I tense spot really, really badly in the same paragraph sometimes. I don't know how I do it. It's just because I'm like, got it. If I'm on it's when I'm on a roll and I just have to get the words out as fast as my fingers will type them. But in the reason that we decided on present tense is in book 1, I was leaning a little bit more towards present tense as like throughout the draft, but also we were originally playing around with the idea because there's flashbacks in book 1. We were originally playing around with the idea of writing the flashbacks in past tense and the rest of the story of present tense. So we sort of started doing it all through present tense and then went, that doesn't read so great with the past tense flashback. So we just touched it all up. But there was no real planning of it. It was never intentional. It's just how it came out.
Yeah.
Very professional, I know. Like
it's almost like third person always seems like the industry standard for these type of fantasy novels.
yeah.
There's very few that are first person that I can think of.
I feel like ACOTAR is.
I suppose the first person limits you to the character's perspective, whereas third person gives you that more. If you're building a world, which often you do in fantasy, being in third person gives you much more of that omnipresent kind of focus, I suppose.
Yeah, and I definitely toe the line sometimes between third person and I hate that word, omnipresent. It's always the one I have to pause and I'm like,
it's such an English teacher word, I know.
That the omni, like omniverse. So I toe the line a bit like the lens, I don't know how to excited, sort of will zoom in and out in spaces. Which I think it happens a bit in fantasy, but you have to be quite careful you don't go too far out and start telling things that your character doesn't see, hear, know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit, but I definitely like to do omnipresent ones for omniscient, Jesus. For I hate that word. For like scenes, when I'm sort of setting scenes or describing scenery or the world, which I think some readers will probably know a little bit, just because I do like my world building.
I was going to ask that. Like, you've got, like, I guess with fantasy, you've got one end of the scale with someone like J.K. Rowling, who didn't really expand much on the magic world. It was just sort of there and existed within. And then you got Tolkien, who will spend chapters writing about one tree and building that.
It was a good tree.
It was a great tree. And it put my kid to sleep every time I got to that chapter. So thanks, Tolkien, for that.
Yes.
Where do you reckon is this a world you want to continue to explore and build and just add on all these little nuances and what have you?
I mean, I think there's a lot there that probably will never see the light of day again. It's stuff that I think a lot of world building in fantasy, especially, as you as the author need to know, but the reader, it may never see the light of day. You know, the reader may never see it on a page, bar like the tiny, like one single sentence that's lost in a chapter. But you need to know it for you, because it has to be a real world to you as the writer. Otherwise it's not a real world to the reader, because it sort of helps you pick up, you know, sort of random things. Like, for example, mine was when I was describing a setting sun, my editor pointed out, they're like, okay, well, you are obviously in the southern hemisphere because of where the sun is setting, so you need to make a note of that for next time. Just little things like that. Like, the readers are probably never going to be like, the sun, like, unless it goes to America, they might be like, the sun doesn't set there.
Yeah.
But it's also a fantasy world, so if the sun keeps setting there, it's fine. So yeah, lots of sort of nuances, the language that goes into the book as well, from writing the Fae language. I love world building.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the language, because I think I read something that some of it was based on the Maori language.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is like, how did that, like, is there like a specific word that links up to a word in your Fey language, or did you just kind of throw suffixes and prefixes together with random nouns and not nouns, vowels?
Yeah, a little bit. So I always knew I wanted a language because again, it's very like Tolkien and it's very old school fantasy, which I love. Which you might have heard me say at Supernovas before. I sometimes start to describe it now as like a new twist on old school fantasy, as in it has maps and it has world building and a Fey language and all these gods and goddesses and all that. But for me, it was really important for the language to not be gibberish. So I justified it by, if it is based on a real language, it won't be gibberish. And then it sort of helped me because I only finished year 12 English. I have no, that's it. Like my only other education is my certificates in like vet nursing and conservation, nothing to do with book stuff at all. So I was like, if I base it in a real language, it'll sort of help me with sentence structure and reoccurring sounds and vowels and things as well. Because I am not talking and I'm not doing the whole language. But so I would, look up the word for female, for example. And I'd used a bit of Latin as well, because Latin is very like whimsical, I think, very, very fantasy-esque. So I'd be like, well, this is the Latin word for woman or warrior or whatever word I was trying to make. And this is the Māori word. So I'm going to take bits and pieces and there it is.
Nice. I'm very glad you included a pronunciation guide in the back of your books, because some of them I would have had no idea.
Yeah, I know. I think it's because a lot of it is based in Māori and their vowels are very different, and their R's and things like that are pronounced differently than the English language. So I as a reader want to say it the way the author wants it to be said.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if I can't be the only one, so I'm going to make a pronunciation guide. So for the people that want it, can have it. For the people that just completely skip over the word, fine. But it's there if people want it. And then the translations as well, which sort of helps keep people on track.
Yeah. I will say, especially coming into the second book after finishing the first one a few months ago, there are a few words that just got kind of thrown in. And I'm like, what is it? On the very first page, like the Leica. I'm probably saying that completely wrong now.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you're right, Leica, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, what was that again? And it was really handy just to flick through the back. Like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, cool.
Yes, yeah. And even I still have like this ratty old piece of paper that's falling apart that has all my translations on it that I just add to as I go.
I'm sure our listeners would also like to know, once you've finished the trilogy, should we be expecting at least another 15 books worth of lore and world building, languages, that sort of thing as well?
That'd be cool.
At least 15.
Cool.
Yeah,
like
minimum.
At least.
You have to outdo Tolkien.
Yeah. At least. Man, that'd be cool though, wouldn't it? Like to be able to put in details of the random places on the map that the characters don't really move through, but they're there.
I guarantee you would find people who would buy it. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Look, if there is a market for it and I could convince my publisher to do it, I have no problems hanging around in the world a bit longer.
Because there was, maybe I'll mention it off recording, because there's one thing I wanted to ask you about the world, but it might get into some spoilers. So I might ask you after we finish recording, so I don't want to get into too much.
All right.
Just one random line. It's inconsequential, but it just made me think of it.
Right.
So I guess.
Well, you can ask and just edit it out.
That's true. I could.
Because otherwise you'll forget to ask.
Yeah, true.
It does bring to mind though, like I don't read a lot of fantasy. It's not really my favorite style of writing or reading, but a lot of authors, when they do build a world, like you're writing a trilogy that's set in this universe that you've created. Do you, and maybe you can't answer this yet, I don't know, but a lot of authors will create a bit of a universe and tend to revisit it as time goes on. Is that something that you kind of have in your head as you're expanding, or is it I couldn't tell you right now, or too much
like
of
an
a spoiler
omniverse?
maybe? Yeah, I guess one day you'll come back to this land and different characters, different time, but same place.
I mean, I have been toying around with a novella from one of the side characters, that isn't in for the most part of the trilogy, and it would be set before the events of the trilogy. So definitely, for that character specifically, more because I need to write it because it's stuck in my head.
Yep.
Again, it might never see the light of day, but definitely, whether I write like a true omniverse, like crossover sort of thing, I don't know, man. Like,
You're just,
I'm always,
you're just
I'm
kind
not
of
enough of a
Just
focusing
putting you
on,
on the spot.
you're just
I
kind of
plan these
focusing
things.
on getting that third book out first.
Yeah. Like possibly like sometimes the thread of an idea will tickle the back of my mind, but I usually write it down in my little go-to book that I have here. This is full of random ideas. So I scribble it down in this and I close it, and it's never to be thought of again until I'm finished my trilogy. So I'll revisit this later. But possibly novella definitely of the same sort of characters and world, but an omniverse with new characters sort of crossing in. Man, I don't know if I have the skills for it, to be honest.
Well, no one knows until they try.
Yep.
Yes, we'll see. We'll see. All things are possible.
Have you got a plan? Like, I think the third book is out this year, or aiming to be out this year.
Yeah, October is when we're aiming for, because I don't want it to be any more than 12 months between.
Yeah,
because that's too much.
You're not going to do a George Martin and make us wait 12 years.
Nah. It's the only thing, honestly, sometimes that keeps me writing, because I'm like, don't you dare. Because I have books on my shelf like The Name of the Wind. When is he going to finish that series?
I just read Name of the Wind end of last year, and I picked up the second one. I know.
It's so good.
It is. It's really good. But now it's never going to be finished.
Yeah. Literally that, we should thank Patrick for that, because it's that one sticking point, because it annoys me to no end. And I'm like, this will be you. You'll do this to people if you don't finish. So sometimes that's all that keeps me chugging on, is like, damn you, Patrick. Frantic typing.
You've released one more book than Patrick Rothfuss.
Oh, me. Well, no, he's got his novella now. So.
Oh, yes, he did just release a new novella, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to get on.
He's got two. Yeah, so now he's technically got 4. He's got 2 and 2 novellas.
Yeah, but he hasn't released a third book.
No.
You're further along than he is.
I should email him and be like, race you.
What was I going to say? Yeah, so third book out this year.
October,
have you got a plan for what's after that? Like, I'm assuming this will finish kind of Tellium's story. Have you got any plans after that yet?
Look, again, I have little ideas. But I think anyone that's tried to do writing knows that new ideas are the bane of your existence, because shiny new ideas are way more fun to deep dive into than persisting through your current story. So kind of, yes, a little bit. It's in my closed book we do not name. I want to try to write a single book, like a standalone, which is laughable considering how much I overwrite. It'd be like a fun little challenge. It won't be. It'll end up being like a 7-book series.
Just release one 1,200-page book. You're fine.
Yeah. It's like a, what do they call it? An omnibus? Those massive ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been toying around with the idea of like, here's a little secret. This might be important. Like in another 3 years, you'll be like, I knew that first. I've been toying around with the, like, I want to do like a Greek gods and mafia romance crossover.
Oh, heck yes.
Wow. I would read that.
I'm there for that.
Read that. Yeah.
That was the seed of it went into the book.
No, and it's just those little ideas that expand
sometimes
and snowball, and before you know it. No, that's great.
So, hang on to that. It might be worth something in a couple of years if the book comes out. You're like, I know what's coming. I know what it is.
Yeah, just message me later if you need me to cut that out of the show, if that's too much of a spoiler.
No, keep it. Keep it. It's so vague. Only the super fans will pick that up.
And if we see a book like that in the next few years, we know where you got the idea from. So come on, guys.
Yeah.
Called it.
Yeah. How long have we been going for, actually?
About an hour.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Easy. I did want to ask one more thing, just offhandedly.
Sure.
I saw in your social media someone cosplayed as Tellium.
Yeah.
What did that feel like?
Amazing.
Like,
That
did
would
you?
have been,
It was a few months ago now, I think.
I think it was the start of 2023 because it was the
So
Gold Coast Supernova.
Gold Coast.
Mm. Yeah, that was Becca. Beck Hex is her tag. She loved the book. She came up in cosplay. I actually thought she was Manon from Throne of Glass.
So you didn't know she was coming?
No,
This-
I mean, I knew she was coming.
Yeah.
She had said that, she was going to come because she was coming with her sister, and she was kind of on the fence about it because she's not a huge fan of crowds. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, we've got an extra seat in the booth. If you need to come sit behind the booth because it's a bit more sort of blocked off and you need to,
Yeah. So did you
decompress.
know her before?
No,
Or she just discovered the book and just like,
social media. Yeah.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So she rocked up. I didn't realize her sister was recording and she was like, who am I? And she had like this cape on and this cool leather corset and this white wig. So I was like, are you Manon? Like, because I was just like, white wig. And she was like, no. And then I was, are you Telly? And she goes, yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. And I got all emotional. She actually gave me a copy of The Assassin Thief that I don't know if you can see that. She
Oh
has
my
like
goodness.
annotated. So it says Becca's version down here. And she's got her little like key for all the colors.
Wow.
They're all color coded. So I literally went home that night to the hotel and like looked through it. So she's got all these little like notes in the columns. It's great. I don't annotate books, so it was really cool. It's like doing a little buddy read.
That makes it all worth it. Like just that one thing.
Yeah, that, and she gave me a little letter, like my first fan mail.
Oh,
This handwritten letter, and that she left it all, and they had other stalls to go and see, so they went off. And my dumbass opened that letter, fully knowing it was going to make me emotional, and read it in the middle of Supernova, like. And hubby's looking, why are you crying? And I was like, like he had a big sook about it. And I'm not a crier at all. Apparently I am when it comes to book stuff. But usually no. Usually I'm a freaking hard ass. But yeah, so I've stashed it away. I have a little letter from her. It was just one of those books that sort of helped her through a rough time. And I was like, oh my God, this is all you want as an author, is for one person to be like, this is my book. This is my comfort read. This resonated with me, anything like that.
yeah.
And to have that so early on, I think it would have been like less than 6 months maybe, since The Assassin Thief had released, because it released in October 2022.
Yeah.
So it was just, beautiful, lovely.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. I love that.
I know it's so corny and it's a bit like mushy, but it's
Doesn't matter.
She definitely made my entire year for sure. So, and yeah, I've had I have a little like Tellium doll up here that someone's made, like restuck the hair onto a Bratz doll and repainted the face and dressed him in black.
I'm so sorry, I'm not that crafty.
Oh no, me neither.
I smell a merchandising opportunity though.
Yeah.
One of my readers has a tattoo on her leg.
Oh wow.
Oh my goodness.
I know. It's she has the Tellium's eyes because she's got heterochromia.
Yeah.
She has her eyes like tattooed on the back of her leg. I'm like, why would you do that? That's there forever. She's like, yeah, I know. So yeah, it's just been and this was all within 12 months of book one releasing.
That's
so
amazing.
Yeah, like
So I feel, going back to what you said earlier about how you talk about yourself, I feel if someone's getting tattoos of characters on their legs, you can call yourself an author now.
Yeah.
You can
yeah,
start with that, I think. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. The between the cosplay and the tattoo, I just was not coping with life. Like, um, I had a sneaking suspicion that um Jazz, my reader, was going to get a tattoo because she had been asking very like specific questions.
Mm.
And I think she had said, I'm going to go show this to my tattoo artist. Like, and I was like, as a joke,
Yeah.
right? As a funny, because everyone talks about getting tattoos all the time. And I could see ping up on my phone a couple of like image texts coming through. I was like, I don't, just in case, I'm not going to look at that at work, just in case. Lucky, I waited until I got home. I even set up my camera because I was like, if this is going to be a funny joke, like she's like drawn it in pencil or something, I was like, I want to film my reaction to show her. But no, she got an actual stuck there forever tattoo. And so
Wow.
there's a video of me sitting here at my desk and doing the like, because I'm such a sook when it comes to my books, apparently. And I'm like calling my husband over, and I was like, that's the video is me going like, that's there forever. And he's like, yeah, it's a tattoo. I was like, that's not coming off. Like, duh. I do know how tattoos work, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that was really cool as well. So yeah, between that and then the Literary Legends stand, which was a bit over 12 months after the book got released, it's been a really wild ride.
Yeah. It's all happened really fast.
I keep waiting for someone to be like, psych.
Yep.
Psych. No one likes your books.
Yeah.
Like,
We never
do or don't.
published it. We just printed
No,
these off at home.
literally. Yeah, nah, it's just, yeah, keep waiting for someone to be like, kidding, you suck. Like, you've been pranked.
Well, funny you should say that because we're actually here to tell it.
Yeah. Smile for the camera. Yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
been a
Well,
while.
I think that might be a good place. We're going for just over an hour. That might be a good place to wrap it up. Unless, Julian, did
Perfect.
you have any other last minute questions
No,
or
I
comments?
just think it's brilliant to see another Australian author
Yeah.
doing their thing and actually, making it happen. We don't have a lot of famous or successful authors who are really out there. We've got
I don't
our
know if I'm
outliers like Matthew Wright. You're
not quite
successful.
in
You
the
got people
famous category.
tattooing themselves.
Yeah.
You got people tattooing themselves of your characters. I think you're well on the way.
Yeah.
So
It might have been more creepy
that's
if it was just
amazing.
your face tatted on them, though.
I won't
Yeah.
show my tattoo then.
Especially if it was like one of those really botched, like portrait, when the eyes are like all thin and the teeth are ugly as it. Like, oh, I love it.
Thanks. Ban them from the convention.
Put a restraining order down. No.
But no, I think it's amazing. So like, wow,
Yes.
well done. And you put your money where your mouth is. And I think that's
Mm.
the biggest battle a lot of people can't fight. So well
Yep.
done. I think it's great.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And you showed up your husband too by doing it. He's like, do this. And you're like, yes, I will.
Called his bluff because I am nothing if not super petty. Like,
So it makes all marriages work.
you
Yep.
could kill me many things, but telling me I'm not petty is not one of them. Because I would have finished that book out of spite alone just to call his bluff. Like,
And so yeah, just before we do wrap it up, so you got 2 books currently available.
Oh yeah, plug yourself.
Yeah.
oh no.
Please do.
Yes. I have 2 books available. So book 1, The Assassin Thief, and book 2, The Soul Thief, are the first 2 in the trilogy. Book 2 just released Halloween 2023, and I'm aiming to have the 3rd and final in the series out October this year, 2024. So do you need tropes?
And
like dark fantasy,
where can we find those books, just for our listeners as well? Where are they available?
if you're in
Do you know
Australia,
that? Is that
yeah, Australia and New Zealand, anywhere books are sold.
Yep.
So if your local bookstores don't have it, they should be able to order it in for you. Amazon's being a bit glitchy at the moment. I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. The link for book 1 is being a bit temperamental. So don't order it through Amazon at the moment, please.
Okay.
It's a good plug to support your local bookstores as well.
Yes, yeah, please do
absolutely.
support your local bookstores. Because yeah, they will be able to order it in even if they don't have it on the shelf. It does actually really help if people ask to order it in, because then they're more likely to think it's something they maybe should stock all the time.
Even if you own the book already, just go and ask for it. Just bump those numbers up.
And then never pick it up.
Yeah.
And then put it on the shelf. Kmart, Big W have it as well. Book 2 is in the works of getting it out to Kmart, which is awesome because it'll make it more accessible. You can get your ebooks, audiobooks as well. Kind of.
Is there an audiobook? Who voiced the audiobook? Do you know? Is it something?
Tanya.
Or is there
Tanya Schneider, I believe her surname is. She has done book 1 and 2.
Yep.
She's got quite a few fancy awards and stuff tagged onto her name from memory. When we listened to her little like audition snippet, I'm not sure what to call it. But yeah, that's definitely there. Anyone that is an audiobook lover is more than welcome to message New Dawn on Instagram and peer pressure them into doing a graphic audio. That's my new fun thing to jump on.
Oh, heck yes. I love those.
Yeah. I'm telling everyone now, I'm like, if you want hardcover special editions, just message New Dawn, because eventually they're going to cave under peer pressure. And now I'm telling them that for audiobook, for the graphic audio.
Oh, yeah.
So it's available on all platforms essentially. And
just spam them.
Yeah.
We'll make them cave under peer pressure.
Yep. As long as the special editions include all those cut scenes, I'm there.
Yes. I have drafted up some special edition scenes just in case.
Just in case.
Preparation.
I've got all my signed books, so I'm good. And I mean, if you're back for Supernova at the end of the year, if the 3rd book's out by then, I'll definitely be. Yes. Hopefully, I can't say definitely. It depends on what life is doing at that point.
Yeah,
but I always try and get there.
Yes, yeah. I mean, budget permitting, I don't see why it wouldn't be. He is hoping. And yeah, I'm hoping that we can do the same as we did for book 2 and sneak it in just before the Supernova start. Because it's sort of a good promotion to be like, it just came out like this week. So for sure. But yeah, you can find it. There are content warnings as well for your listeners. Please read them. You can find them on New Dawn's website, or they are printed in the back of the book as well.
Yep. And I will include all those links in the show notes for this episode too.
Perfect. Yeah, I think well, I mean, even if people go onto my website and they click on the book, it takes them straight to New Dawn, so they'll be able to find it anyway. I don't think I have the content warning list, which I probably need to do on my website. Okay,
add it to your list.
Add it to my list. I literally just got the website started for merchandise and sort of put it all up, and I was like, that's it. I'm not looking at this website ever again.
We'll make sure we link it in the notes as well.
Yeah,
your website.
I'll add all that in.
Yes. Yeah. That's
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming out today. Or not coming out. You just had to sit there in your office.
Yeah. Just rocked up in my trackies still. It's perfect.
It's fine. No, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
me.
Cheers.
Oh, our pleasure. Absolutely. So thank you.
Yeah. And we'll just edit randomly because Eloise unfortunately couldn't join us today. So we're going to randomly edit her in just throughout sporadically with just random lines.
Yes. Perfect.
Maybe we'll make her do the intro and outro.
Yeah. You're going to make her juggle the surname?
Yeah.
And then we'll tell her we've replaced her with you from now on. Yeah.
There's a post pinned on my TikTok, if that helps her, of me saying Te Whiu, my surname. Just in case.
We'll get the sound from that and just splice it in.
Snip it in. Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah.
Awesome. There you go. Well, thank you so much again.
That's all right.
Thank you
for having me.
Yeah. I'll just say bye to everyone listening.
Bye.
If anyone is. Bye.
Sure.
Bye.